Hello and welcome to the video. In this video, we are going to see the installation process for TIBCO BusinessWorks 5. So without any further delay, let's begin. TIBCO BusinessWorks 5 software is divided into multiple components and we need to install them in a specific order. So the order we are going to follow in this video is as per the numbers I have given to these different components here. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Though TIBCO EMS can be installed later, but I prefer installing the software component in this order which I mentioned here. So let's start with the installation. We'll start with installing TIBCO RV as a first software. So in this installation, the software that will be installed is TIBCO Rendezvous 8.4.4. Click Next, accept the license agreement and click Next. Here you can use an existing TIBCO home directory or TIBCO home, but in this case I'm going to create a new TIBCO home directory. So to do that, I'm going to select the create new home option, click on browse button and select the location. Under this, I'm going to create a new folder with the name TIBCO BW5. You can optionally use the second option to use an existing TIBCO home. Click next. If you want to install custom products, you can say select custom installation and select the products you want to install, but in this installation I'm going to install all of them, so I will uncheck and click next. In the pre-install summary, you can again see the software that will be installed in this installation. Click install and wait for the installation to finish. And now you can see the installation is completed. Click on the finish button. Now we have finished installing the first product out of four, the first product which was TIBCO RV. Let's move on to the next one, which is TIBCO EMS. Double click on the installer and the installation for TIBCO EMS will begin. You can see the welcome screen for TIBCO EMS installation. Click next, accept the license agreement and click next. Now I am going to use the existing home directory which we created in the previous component installation, which is TIBCO BW5, and click next. Here you have to provide the configuration directory where some of the files related to configuration will be stored. So I will create a new directory with the name TIBCO BW5 and click next. In your case, you can leave it to default if you want. Here you have to specify if the TIBCO EMS server should be started automatically or manually in your computer. I'm going to leave it to manual, which is the default, and click next. Click on install button and wait for the installation to finish. You can now see post-install summary for TIBCO EMS software, and the installation for TIBCO EMS is completed. Click finish button and let's move to the next software. Next software in our sequence is TIBCO TRA, which stands for TIBCO Runtime Agent. Again, double click on the installer file and let the installation start. Here comes the welcome screen for installation. Click now next button accept the license agreement, click Next. Use the existing home which we created in the first component installation, click Next, click Next, click Next. You can optionally specify to use TIBCO EMS if you want. I will leave everything to default, click Next. Accept the license agreement, click Next. It will require to download a file from Oracle, so select the first option which is again a default and click Next. And now you can see the pre-install summary and you can click on install button which will start the installation. Let's wait for the installation to finish. You can now see that the installation for our third component TRA is completed. Let's move on to the installation of our next component which is TIBCO BW. Double click the installer file which will start the installation for TIBCO BW. In the welcome screen, again click Next like we did earlier, accept the license agreement, click Next, use the existing TIBCO home directory, click Next, Next, and you can see the pre-install summary and click on Install button. Let the installation complete. You can now see that the installation is completed. You can click on Finish button. After the installation finished, you can go to the Start menu and search for TIBCO and open the product called TIBCO Designer, which will launch the designer, and using the designer you can do the development tasks related to TIBCO BW5. So this completes the installation process for TIBCO BusinessWorks 5. Thank you for watching the video.